All right, episode 2, Parapsychology Hour, Joey Ray coming back at you. Episode 1 about 9/11, all the parapsychology experiences associated with that I had, and kind of the opening up to that and the realization that we're not in Kansas anymore back in 2001 for a lot of people when 9/11 happened, right? And kind of a mass consciousness event. So here's episode 2, and we're gonna come right back at, and we're gonna hit it from a different angle this time. And so this is Parapsychology Hour. What is parapsychology? Parapsychology is the study of psychic phenomenon associated with extrasensory perception, having to do with telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition, telekinesis, psychokinesis, psychometry, synchronicity, near-death experiences, apparitional experiences. Synchronicity is where I come in. 1228, my story. You'll hear it eventually on here. I'll do an episode just on 1228 alone, numerology, whatever. But basically, this one I want to talk about the big man upstairs. A lot of people are going to be like, "Ah, Jesus, blah blah blah," but that's exactly what his name is. His name is Jesus. And so this one I'm going to talk about Jesus, and you know what, he has something to do with parapsychology, I believe so. Talks about him in the Bible and says that Jesus does say that this sort of stuff is one of those things that you have to have discernment with, and I do believe that is the correct way, that is the truth right there, and that you have to have discernment. And if you're not into this stuff and you're just kind of looking at it and you're like, oh, that's kind of interesting or whatever, but here's the thing, man. Everybody has dreams, everybody has intuition, everybody has feelings, everybody has impressions, everybody has hunches, everybody has the deja vu experiences, all these things that happen, right? That line up. You had a dream and you're like, oh my God, I swear to God, I dreamt that, like that was going to happen just like that or whatever. Everybody's had those experiences of some sort of miraculous event, whether they know somebody or they heard a story about, whatever. Somebody having like superhuman strength or doing something that was just, that was extraordinary, right? And for the actual for the situation. And this sort of stuff has to do with parapsychology, the paranormal, the miraculous, and it's very cool stuff. I'm very much into it. It's one of my passions for sure. And Albert Einstein, who I love, I think the guy was obviously genius, and he definitely was. He says that the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that worships the servant and has forgotten the gift, and that gift being the intuitive mind. And that is 100% correct. As human beings, we have access to some amazing things. And I'm saying that stuff. It's not like I'm special. I'm no more special than anybody else. And I'm not like I'm like, have some sort of special connection or anything like that. It's like, it's just this is just what it is. It's the study of this stuff. It's very cool stuff. And so anyways, this is episode 2. And like I said, I'm talking about Jesus on this one. And and here it goes. So this was back in 2011, 2012. And I was in Denver, Pennsylvania, in the Pennsylvania little region of Reading, Lancaster, Ephrata area. A lot of churches, a lot of good people, a lot of farms, a lot of Amish, a lot of Mennonite. And this was a story of basically technology versus intuition. And by golly, intuition won. And this is how it worked. Now, obviously, I needed to be the decision maker on this, and I could have went either way, but I went with intuition. And this is how it happened. So I just got to Pennsylvania. I was there in that area, Denver, Pennsylvania. I just got done working one of my first shifts. I was staying put up in a hotel by a great company that I was working with at the time to help out in that area that was new to me. I had never been there before. I had not known the roads or anything around it as far as the layout goes. And I had just got done with the store. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go to a grocery store because I need to pick up some things. And I was just about to use the Google Maps on the technology that we all carry around in these smart devices, right? And they are a great invention. Not talking smack about technology. I do love technology. But I was about to reach for technology in the Google Maps, which made it very easy for me to get to a grocery store, but time space would have went a different direction at that point. Who knows what would have happened, right? I would have been back at my hotel within like an hour, right? Because I would have been to the grocery store and back. So, but this is not a story about how I used Google Maps that night and went to the grocery store within an hour and came back. This is a story of how I connected with the creator of the universe, or Jesus, God, whoever, whatever you want to say, but something. And everybody has that ability to connect with that. Praise God, right? You know what I mean? Like, God is omnipresent, and it's basically the creator of all, right? Of everything and everyone, right? And it says, like, in the Bible, all these things, these different biblical things, says like he knew us before we even were, breathe into life or whatever. He knew us, and like the whole thing, like everything about us pretty much. Like, it's like pretty cool stuff, man. Like, amazing. I mean, you just think about like how we are with different things, like, how human beings are with like their children. You know what I mean? Like, once you get to that point where you have like a child, and how special that is and how sacred that is. Or like an animal, like think about how the connection people have to their animals. You know what I mean? How sacred that is, and like the bond, and like all that stuff. And like when an animal passes and goes to the next level, and like how hard that is, it's like a human being. You know what I mean? So anyways, getting back to the story here. So God is the original GPS. This is the story of it. So I was about to reach for the Google Maps GPS, make it easy, and I swear, not even joking, I just happened to be passing a church at that time. Had never seen the church before. Like I said, brand new area, and just like most churches, they have that little outside little bulletin house board thing that's kind of like weatherproof, and they have the little with the weekly message they put in the different thing. And when you go drive past churches, most of them have it, like, saying what time church is, little maybe inspirational message, whatever, right? And I swear to you, as I'm about to drive by at that exact moment, and it wouldn't have hit me, like if I had already used Google Maps even 5 seconds, 10 seconds, a minute before, or a minute, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or a minute later was going to reach for the Google Maps, it wouldn't have hit me as hard. But it was literally right when I was about to reach for the Google Maps to just kind of like, just basically like speak grocery store, and have it bring me there. I saw God as the original GPS at that exact moment. At that exact moment. And that is the stuff of legend right there. Of like, that's beyond like my capability as a human being. You know what I mean? Like that's beyond me. That's the universe interacting with me. And that's me understanding that. And then being like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, I saw that, I see that, I understand that. And you know what? Like, that's really special, and I'm gonna honor that. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna like just be like, ha ha ha, like, yeah, God is the original GPS, like whatever, like that was pretty cool, but like, nice try, God, ha ha ha. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, whoa, dude, like that's crazy. Yeah, like, you know what? Mad respect. All right, let's go with it. So I put the phone down. And I was like, all right, God, you got me. Whatever you need me to do. I'm like, let's go. I have no clue where I'm driving, but I just started basically going on, like, if I felt like left, I went left. If I felt right, I went right. But where I could just kind of zenned out while I was driving, and it was just kind of like getting into that space where I was just like, all right, God, lead me wherever you lead me. I'm on your time. And this story is kind of similar to two different movies when I look back at it and I tell the story now. And I reference these movies a lot because they were great movies that talk a lot about parapsychology. And but those two movies were Star Wars and Scrooged. And what's better than Star Wars, man? Like, you know what I mean? George Lucas and Kurosawa, dude, like, I'm amazing. And so anyways, but so the references to those movies is just like Star Wars Episode 4 was when Luke was about to fire into the Death Star. He didn't use the technology, although he was about to, because he felt like that was his only chance. Then he heard like Obi-Wan that came through the Force, the mysterious Force, and said, use the Force, Luke, use the Force. And the rest is history. Just through that Force, like, you know what I mean? Like not even having to worry about technology, like it took care of it. And that is Star Wars Episode 4. Cool story. And then the movie Scrooge, that has to do with parapsychology, obviously, with the fact that, he had 3 supernatural visitors, you know what I mean, so to speak, ghosts of Christmas present, past, and future. And he had the original ghost at the beginning, which was just kind of the precursor to it. So this story, it kind of has that parallel to it, which is kind of like unique. because it had like I could have either went with technology, put the goggles on, the Google goggles, so to speak, and used the Google Maps to get to where I was going, to try to, like, complete my mission to fire the two missiles into the Death Star, so to speak, to go to the grocery store, right? Because that was my mission at that moment. I could have used the Google goggles and put them on like Luke in the StarCraft at that point, or it was like use the Force, Luke. And I looked at that, like me going past that church bulletin board and seeing that at that exact moment lining up in time and space. I honored that in such a special way. I was like wow. I was like, you know what? Like, yeah, like I'm putting the Google goggles. That's like a use the Force moment, Luke. Like, all right, I'm in a new area. I have no idea. God, you lead me. And that ended up being, I ended up having a situation of three supernatural ghosts, almost, so to speak, or three supernatural visited, like just interactions, I guess you could say. And the God is the original GPS bulletin board at the church was the initial kicker offer, or the original ghost, so to speak, right? And that it visits Scrooge in the movie and says, you're going to be visited by three ghosts. So that's kind of what happened. And here's that this story gets wild, and so I think it is. I mean, it's not super crazy, but it's pretty cool from a spiritual or perspective, and from people that come from that slant. And I'm trying to put this in here for parapsychology, so people don't just think that it's not just mumbo jumbo and all this stuff. Like, Christians should actually look into this stuff and try to understand this, because this is important stuff, and like, just have discernment, And I always do everything. I always try to have the energy follows intentions, So if whatever your intentions are, the energy will follow that. So if your intentions are bad, then yeah, the energy is going to be bad associated with it. And if your intentions are good, then the energy should be good. So that's really where you want to be. Excuse me, sorry about that. So basically, here's the deal. So here's the story of those three ghosts, and to me, it's just, it was crazy. So the first one was, after driving for quite a while, lefts, rights, have no idea where I'm going, I finally come to this T stop sign where I can no longer go straight. I can either go right, which was kind of down a hill, or I could go left, which was up a hill. The hill that was going up was quite steep, and I couldn't really see up above me, maybe like about 50 to 100 yards, and that was flat. But what I could see was, I could see a bunch of emergency lights, and it was at that time nighttime. And there was emergency lights everywhere. I could see them just flashing off the cloud cover, and also just through the trees, kind of reverberating through the shadows. And they always just, when I talk about emergency lights, I mean, I don't mean just like maybe like somebody got pulled over. I'm talking like you could tell there was just different style of emergency lights, of like ambulances, fire trucks, stuff like that. And it was like 8 o'clock at night, and not a very busy area of town. So, I mean, to me, it had to have been some sort of emergency situation. And I had one of those, just whatever you want to call them, moments. This would be, you call synchronicity, and this whole story lines up with synchronicity. But it's, basically just kind of not telepathy, but just kind of like empathy, I guess you could say. Just a feeling, clairsentience, maybe. Clairsentience is probably the best way to say it, just a knowing. And I just, when I saw those emergency lights, my heart kind of sunk, because like I was like, oh my God, like there was an accident, like an accident just happened, like not too long ago, like the emergency crews are still here, like working, And I was just kind of like, I was like, God led me here because he needs, like, whoever this is, like, needs prayers. And if I was to drive away from this right now and not pray at all, like, God would be like, what was the point of you even putting the Google goggles down and following me? God is the original GPS if you're not going to do my work. So I was just kind of like, oh my God, like I need to pray. So I stopped at that stop sign, and I was like, all right, God, like you led me here. I know how to pray. I love people. I understand, like, somebody's in dire need. Like if an accident did just happen up there, or whatever, or some type of emergency situation, I'm sure that whoever it is, whether it's the emergency personnel themselves or the people involved in the accident, could definitely use the prayers. And when I prayed, it was like a triple prayer. It was like a prayer for the people that were involved, a prayer for the emergency personnel responding, that they would intuitively know exactly how to help these people and what they needed and what they didn't need, and to get them to the hospitals And then that when they got to the hospitals, if that's what it was, if it was an accident, people needed to go to the hospitals and they were hurt or whatever, that when they got there, if they needed the medical attention, that the doctors and nurses would intuitively know right away exactly what was going on. Just have a knowing, like, this is what it is. This is how we need to help these people. And that was like, it was like bang, like triple prayer for them, for the emergency workers, for the doctors and nurses once they get to the ultimately to the to the hospitals. And I was like, and my last thing was like, man, if there's any kids involved, like, and I just said like an extra prayer, like, man, if there's any kids involved, please like assign extra angels, make sure, blah, 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 blah. And it was just like such a cool moment. Not one car came up behind me on that stop sign and forced me to have to move. I was able to pray for about 5 minutes, it seemed like. Emergency lights never moved, really never moved. I never went up to check it out. I never went up. I have no idea. Maybe it was just something. Maybe it was just a bunch of prayers I sent out at the intersection, so to speak, in that direction that just went to the people around it and just hopefully maybe protecting that intersection in general. And but that being said, like I said, from the feeling I felt empathically and learning that I kind of know when I feel things to kind of maybe just give a little bit of insight, a little bit of trust to it, because I've had quite a few of experiences where it's turned out to be correct. And I just had that feeling like, man, like an accident just happened here. And so if that had been the case, like, that's crazy, because me seeing that God is the original GPS sign, and then me driving, however, I was just kind of left, right, kind of cruising, like just observing, just being in the moment, just smelling the air, seeing the sights, hearing the sounds, the air flowing through the vehicle, all those things, right? And then just kind of slowly but surely, like, it brings me to the situation where if an accident had just happened, it had to have been within like the past hour, right? And if not even sooner. So crazy that it was kind of led me there. And I was like, man, if those prayers were needed, that was the first interaction, the first ghost, so to speak. And now it'd be for like, that ghost would be like, are you going to say prayers for those in need when you come to those, when I lead you to those situations, are you going to pray? And I feel like I passed that test, and that was like, I did. And then the second one had to do with, are you going to do good deeds for me when you have opportunities to do good deeds for those around you, and not only change the element of your own and that person's day, destiny, so to speak, everything, but change the whole environment around you. And I passed that test, or passed that's the second interaction. And the third interaction in this movie, like, and it would parallel this movie Scrooge, right? The third one was are you going to give the right counsel from a place of where I would want you to come from, when I bring you to divine appointments to talk to people and to counsel them. So like, sometimes you need to help people. Like I need, you know what I mean? Like all of us need to sometimes help people. Like all of us are always looking for ways that we can improve ourselves, and that, you know what I mean? Like what we can kind of learn and pick up from other people to improve ourselves or whatever, right? We're always looking to improve ourselves, and, what's in it for us, and blah, 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 blah. Like not from a selfish way, but it's good to grow, right? And, but at the same token, like it's bad if it becomes something where it's like, it's all about us, and then we're not even willing to give the right counsel anymore, because we're not coming from a place of where God would want us to come from. And this was a story of basically like 3 tests, or 3 ghosts, or 3 visits, or whatever you want to call it. And that first one at that intersection near it was where the prayers were needed. Are you going to pray? I did for like 5 minutes, and it was beautiful. I felt humbled. I felt thankful. I was like, man, I don't know if an accident just happened, but if those emergency workers, I just sent a bunch of prayers to them. Irregardless, they're going to need them. And I was just kind of like, to be led to a situation like that, if that's what it was, an accident, is very humbling indeed from God, that he brought me there, because I felt like a light worker at that point. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was doing my part, and those prayers, I felt like were going to be answered, And then the second one was the good deed. Did I do a good deed? And then after that intersection, I took a right, didn't go left. I didn't want to go past the I didn't want to go up to the intersection and be a nuisance if there was something going on up there, right? So I went right, the only way I could go, because it was a T intersection, couldn't go straight, stop sign. So I go right down the hill, and then lo and behold, there's a grocery store. So I pop in. First customer I go past, some guy in a wheelchair reaching for a product. I almost walked right past him because I just, you know how you get in your own space sometimes. It happens to everybody. And I was like, man, like there's the good deed. This is crazy. Here's the second test or the second miracle. It was almost like, like, hey, help this guy. And I was like, excuse me, sir, do you need some help? Can I grab that for you? And he was like reaching for it. And like, I could tell he was stressing. And he was like, oh my God, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. And I was just like, yeah, no problem, dude. So I grabbed what he needed off like one of the upper shelves that he was almost to, and put it in his cart. Like I said, he was handicapped. He was in a wheelchair. And I was just like, man, is there anything else you need? I just got here. I have to walk through the whole entire store. Like, I'll walk down every aisle with you. Let's go. And he was like, no, man. Like, and he had stuff in his car. He's like, that was literally the last thing I needed. And I was like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, man. I was like, you sure? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, all right, man. Well, God bless you, man. Have a good night. And when I said that, I was kind of like, like, dude, God's amazing. Da da da. Just kind of walking away. I'm glad I did that. Blah blah blah. Glad I didn't miss that opportunity and walk right by it. And man, like before I could walk away, the guy was like, he responded back to me, and he was like, right after I said, God bless you, man, he pointed at me and he was like, God bless you. And when he said it to me, man, it was like melted my heart, because it came from this guy that was like in a handicap, man. And like, I'm sure he says, but that God bless you was very special, man, because it was like from his heart to mine. And I'll tell you what, this was a really good guy. And so, and generally speaking, that's what it is, right? With those type of people, generally speaking, the people that have been downtrodden, had a really tough life, you know what I mean? It's like, man, they have to have some of the biggest hearts of all to try to get through what they got to go through every day, So, they don't have time to be just throwing out blessings at people, you know what I mean? Like, they have a tough enough time with their own selves, right? Not that they're not blessing people left and right. They are, not saying that, but it was like this guy, when he blessed me, man, it was powerful. Like I said, one of the most powerful blessings I've ever received in my life. And I was just kind of like, man, it was right after that experience of praying, and I was just like, wow, like that's the second thing. And that's kind of like the experience with that sign. Like, it's just lined up, time, space, synchronistically, like, wow, like there's a second thing. And I was like, and I said to myself, man, it's so funny, but they say things come in threes. So I start walking down the aisle. Next thing you know is an attractive young lady, and she's about my age, probably at that time, probably about mid to late 20s. And so I kind of like, we walk past each other, kind of politely nod, whatever. Walk past each other a second time, and third time, both by each other, like little smile, whatever. And it was just one of those things where I knew I was going to talk to her at that point. It was one of those things. It was like a divine appointment. And this is the next thing. Like, are you gonna pray for those in need when you come across them? Check that off the list. I did that. Are you going to do the good deed when you see somebody who's in need of that handicapped gentleman needed that help? It was like, absolutely. I checked it off the list. I'm glad I didn't miss that. And then this was the third thing. And they said things come in threes. Are you going to give the counsel from my place, from what I would want you to say? And this was a girl, like I said, an attractive girl, mid to late 20s, right around my age. New area that I had just gone to, riding high, like really good stuff. Like God is the original GPS. I'm kind of blown away by this. And this girl, we bump into each other, and I'm like, wow, like next thing we know, I'm like, this is going to be like a divine appointment. I can just feel it. And we just start talking, and it turns out that she's actually really, really, really depressed. And initially I didn't sense that. And then all of a sudden it was like, man, she just needed somebody to talk to. And it turned out that she was in her mid to late 20s, but she was really depressed because she had missed out on the whole college experience, because she had children at a young age when she was just exiting high school, around that age, with her boyfriend at the time. And they were still together, and they were now married. This was years later. Like I said, she's now in her mid to late 20s. and she had a couple kids now, but she missed out on the whole college experience, like I said. And so she kind of feels like, she missed out on life and blah, blah, blah. And she's just kind of like wondering about her existence, and her kids are kind of growing up a little bit, but it's like her husband, she's just not feeling the connection there like it used to be. And she's just, a lot of it's just because she feels like she missed out, and she's just kind of depressed, and she feels like, like her friends had it better than she did. And I'm just sitting here listening to, and she's, like I said, she's a beautiful girl. And I'm thinking to myself, man, like how many guys would at this point just be like, well, hey, listen, I just came into town, like, blah, 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 like I got a hotel, like this and that, like, love to talk more, da, 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 da. Like you hope people wouldn't be like that, but it happens. And it's at that point, what's that girl going to do? You know what I mean? And I was just kind of like, man, this is an opportunity to counsel like this girl from like a really good, like positive spiritual perspective. And I said, and I was like, look, I'm like, here's the thing. And I'm like, one thing that I've learned about life is that everything happens for a reason. And I'm like, and you having those babies at that young age, you may look at that like that was like a burden or whatever, but like those babies were meant to be. And like that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't meant to be. And like, so you did something. You can look at your friends and say, oh, they had it better than me because they went off to college and they had the college experience, and we were able to party and drink and do whatever and kind of have that like whole like experience afterwards. Well, you know what? A lot of those people, like, they're going to get out of college, and like they're just going to be like, they're still not going to know what they want to do. So it's like, the thing is that like you had like a mission from like a young age, like, just getting out of high school, you were like, your mission was tasked with like bringing new life into the world right away. And you brought in two special kids. I don't know who they are, but you're saying they're special. And you're saying that your husband, that you've been, it's your high school sweetheart, you guys have two kids with, that's meant to be as well. You know what I mean? That's the way I see it. You know what I mean? Like nowadays, people get divorced so easily over everything that happens. But it's a society we live in. Because the society we live in is just like, it's like bred that way. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and people just give up like so easily. But like back in the day, you think about it, it was like, man, once you make that connection, like you're supposed to have, like, try to really make that like connection with somebody, and it's supposed to be like sacred. But just like Einstein says, the intuitive mind's a sacred gift and the rational mind's a faithful servant. It's like we have, like, as a society, like kind of like, shunned the intuitive mind. Like, we have forgotten the gift. We worship the servant and forgotten the gift. You know what I mean? And the society's sick in that way, and it's become sicker and sicker. And I mean, in that case, like it was pretty crazy. This girl, it was pretty remarkable. Like at that point, she just kind of lit up, man. Like, because it was like, and it was like, it was weird because it was like the message was coming through me, and I knew it was coming through me. It wasn't just like me, my words, I mean, obviously it was my listening, and then, okay, and this is the message coming through me. But when that message came through me, like I just felt like the warmth and everything. And this girl, man, she just like lit up, man. And it was like exactly what she needed. She didn't need some guy that was like just after, like, like, oh, hey, blah, 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 you look like a damsel in distress or whatever. You know what I mean? It was like, dude, she needed like a message from like God at that moment. And I was like, man, that's so cool, man. Like, and I was able to give her that message, and she lit right up. And I looked at her, and I was like, I don't know if you needed that or if I needed that. I was like, because I told her, I was like, go home and like give your husband a hug. Like, be happy that you have two little children. Like, look at them, like how amazing they are. Like, you know what I mean? It was amazing. And she just kind of lit up, and I was just kind of like, I don't know if you needed that or if I needed that. And she was like, I did need that. And she started laughing. It was like one of those moments. Is pretty funny, right? Like when you have that human connection with people. And I was just like, we both started laughing. I was just like, man, that's crazy. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, hey, have a good night. Like, go home. Like, you know what I mean? Have a good night, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, I'm like, everything's going to work out. Just have faith, right? And she was just like, man, she's like, she just like was kind of like, man, I can't believe. She was kind of like turned around. Like, I can't believe that just went down like that. Like, that guy really just said, like, you know what I mean? Like, kind of the unexpected, like said she was kind of depressed and almost like looking to get picked up in a way, you know what I mean? Or like throwing it out there, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, like blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and here I like 180'd it into like what God would want, like that message, like what's going to keep those kids strong and keep that family strong, right? So it's like, it's kind of the story right there. And I just want to kind of wrap it up. Like, God is the original GPS. Like, you don't need technology. Be Luke Skywalker. Like, in a lot of these situations where it's like use the Force, Luke. You know what I mean? Like, we can develop our own minds in like amazing ways. And like, And like, you know, just also the story of Scrooge, but basically that God is the original GPS. If I didn't go with that, and I had just chosen to put those Google goggles on, all those three situations never even happened. And I ended up going home that night and having one of the most amazing dreams of my life. And like, I swear to God, like I heard the voice of God, and it was basically like something amazing happened. And it was like, it basically, the voice said to me, like, you see, Joseph, like, the more that you do for others, the more I can do for you. And it was like such a sad voice, where it was like I want to give you so much, but I need you to help others, you know. And but that's the story. Love you guys. Have a great night. That's episode 2.